Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Yogi, and in today's video we're going to talk about pressure cookers. If you're like us, we love to cook with our pressure cooker. And so the other day I noticed that ours was taking a lot longer to cook, and as I got closer to it I realized there was a leak in the gasket. So follow this video. I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions on how you can get yours to work again. So here's this pressure cooker that I was talking about, and that little stem is letting out a lot of steam like it shouldn't. And that is the problem. So we're going to replace and repair those two parts that you see there. The whistle piston as well as this valve stem. Here are the tools that we're going to need. We're going to need some pliers, what I call vice grip pliers, and then a tool that has a fine tip at the end of it. And then also a brush like the one you see here that you use typically in the kitchen to wash dishes with. And if you don't have a tool like that fine point tip, you can also use a needle. Now we're going to take off the whistle stem. This is the part that actually makes the whistling sound. Simply just pull it up, and that's how easy it is to pull that off. If you need to, you can take this cover off, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. Let's turn it over, and now we can see the parts underneath. There's a little screw right here that we're going to need to take off, and I'm going to use my vice grips to hold it on top so that that part doesn't move, the stem doesn't move. Flip it over, and then using my regular pliers, I'm going to simply take that bolt off right there. Just give it a quick twist, and it's simple as that. Then the rest of it can be taken off by hand. There you go. There's what that looks like. I've already done a little bit of cleaning on it, but if yours is a lot dirtier than mine, then that's where we're going to need to follow the next instructions to clean this bolt. So let me get my tools ready. This is the fine point tool that I have, and like I said, you can use a needle or something like a needle if you don't have something like this available at home, and simply just start digging into all these holes and clean those holes out, because over time you'll have food and particles build up inside these holes that prevent the steam from passing like it should into the whistle stem. So we're going to clean this part. This is part 1 of 2. This is the first part that we need to clean and make sure that the holes are not clogged up. And just simply rotate using your tip, just get all the holes clean, make sure there's no residue on those. And then we're also going to turn it over one more time to make sure I get all of the sides of that bolt. Then we can see the inside used to be a little bit dirty. This has actually been cleaned already before I made this video. Before that it was a little bit dirty. And then clean the top of that bolt as well, make sure that hole is nice and clean. And then I'm going to use my brush, the dishwashing brush, and I'm going to start scraping off all those holes to make sure the particles or the junk doesn't stay accumulated inside the holes. So there's the bolt. I'm going to grab my brush and simply side by side just start scrubbing all those sides and get all that clean, get all the junk and the food particles that have been building up over the years, get all that stuff out of there. You can also rinse this in some warm water. People like to use vinegar, any kind of cleaning solution, dishwashing solution that you may have. Anything that'll help loosen up the debris and the particles will be fine. And then just start using this brush to get all of that residue buildup taken off. And it should look nice and clean like you see here in the video. There you go, nice clean shot. All of the holes are very clean and visible. No obstruction inside, nothing as well. And then to put it back on, you simply screw that bolt back on there nice and tight. That takes care of part number 1, which is this bolt. I also like to get that real nice and tight using the pliers, so I'll grab the pliers, give it a good turn, make sure it's nice and firm and secured in place. And then I also like to go around the ring of the lid and make sure all these parts that are bent in, that they're nice and tight, so that way when you make the seal, when you put the lid on the cooker, the seal is nice and firm and nice and tight. You don't want to overdo it, but just give it a nice squeeze all around, so that way you ensure a nice tight grip when you put the lid back on top of the cooker. Now here in step 2, we're going to put the piston back on that we just cleaned, and it's as simple as just pushing it back down till you hear the click. There you go, just like that. And then we're going to turn it over, take a look at the little stem, the pressure stem that you see here. It's got a black gasket around it. So what we're going to do is if I turn it over upside down, you can see it better. There you see that little black gasket. We're going to take that off. And since it's old, we can either pry it off, pull it off, push it through the hole to get it off, or you can cut it, because again, you're not going to be reusing the old one. You're just going to put a new one on. And here's what the new one looks like. It's got the valve stem, it's got a black ring, which will go underneath, and then the blue ring. So here's the valve stem. What I found worked best for me was a nail file, and I was able to use that pointy tip of the nail file to push that old rubber gasket through the hole. That allows it makes it easier to remove that valve stem by simply pushing it through the hole. So here you can see I'm going around the valve stem, pushing that black gasket through the hole, and then eventually pushing the valve stem through and pulling it out the other side. Just use a pair of tweezers. If you want to try and retain that black gasket, you can. Like I said earlier, since we're going to be putting a new one in, there's really no sense in keeping this. So even if you tear into it and it tears like you see here, it doesn't matter, because we're going to put a new one on anyways. So there's a valve stem that I'm going to push through the hole. And there it is. There's the old one, which is going in the trash. And then I'm going to put the new one in using the reverse procedure. Now let's take the new gasket with its new rings, the blue ring and the black ring. We're going to need to take off the blue ring and the black ring so that you can fit that valve stem back through the hole. And I had a little bit of trouble getting this black one off because it's nice and tight on there. And you want to make sure you're delicate with it, because you don't want to tear it or rip it, because that gasket is needed. So keep playing around with it. Use some tweezers, whatever you have laying around. Use your fingers, fingernails if you have fingernails, and just try and peel that off without cutting into that ring, into that gasket. You need that gasket. So here you go. Now I've got most of the ring peeled off, and then I'm going to simply pull it off of the stem without breaking it, without tearing it. And I'm going to put the blue ring back on, and I'm going to put it on from underneath. There's the blue gasket, and that's what really creates that seal for this piston when the pressure starts building up. So I'm going to take that stem, push it up through the hole. Let me get my camera adjusted here so you can see it better. There you go. Take that stem with the pointy part up, the flat part of the stem down, and push it through the hole until it comes through on the other side. Just use a little bit of force with your thumb there, and there you can see the stem is coming out of the top. And then we're going to put the black ring on top of that. And again, be gentle with this part. You may have to set it down. You might even have to use the vice grip so that the stem doesn't go back down. Whatever it takes. If you need an assistant, if you want to turn the lid over to the side so you have a little bit of gravity helping you so the stem doesn't fall back through. And just simply try and get that black ring to fit around the valve stem. As you can see, it's a little bit harder than it seems. So you just have to take your time and be gentle with it. Don't force it. Don't tear that gasket. Whatever you do, be gentle with it. Don't tear that gasket. Took me a few tries. Got a little frustrating at first because I had to make sure I didn't rip it, and I didn't want to use tools if I don't have to, because those tools may possibly tear into the ring, such as tweezers. All right, so I finally got it on, and now you can see the valve stem with the black ring on top, and make sure it moves freely. You got the new blue ring underneath with the new valve stem, and it's moving freely, as you can see, up and down. And you can twist it around and make sure it moves, because you want that freedom of movement for when the pressure starts building up. And that really is what forces the pressure to come out of the long valve stem, also known as the whistle. So that way there's no air leaking like you saw in the very beginning of this video, so there's no air leaking. So now we can see here in my video, after I've got everything put together, I'm going to turn my stove back on, crank it up so the pressure builds up. Let the pressure cooker get nice and hot again, and there you can see the valve stem, the whistle pop up, releasing all that pressure and all that steam, and nothing leaking out of the small valve stem. Another job well done, another DIY video completed. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Hopefully the steps were easy to follow. Give it a thumbs up if you liked the video. And please be sure to subscribe and recommend this video to your friends. And that wraps up another DIY video. Thank you everybody for watching my video. Please give me a thumbs up if you thought it was helpful, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so I can keep making more videos for you. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.